how fast are prices falling for fast cars at auction on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, PCAR Marketplace, and more. We're going to ask that question. We've got an amazing guest. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Nerds! Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. Yep, it's a live show, and we got it going finally. Got it going. Look at this. Smith's Fine Swiss Repair. I got to get that watch repaired, apparently. We don't know what time it is. We totally knew what time it was. We're trying to get technical stuff working out so that we can bring you guys an amazing guest. It always takes that technical stuff at the end so we can bring you this fantastic show twice a week? It's not even every week. It's all the time. It's like Bid Nerds is on all the time. My name is John Polnik. I'm your host. This is Bid Nerds, along with my partner, Michael Deeb in San Francisco. How you doing, Michael Deeb? What's up?
Good, man. Very good. Yesterday went on an invite-only rally. Took Yuri Sinakis with me, and we went up the wine country. We started at the Jimtown store and went up into Middletown and back around to Calistoga and had a blast in the car. And I don't know, man. Just it's been a fantastic. The weather's nice. Like it feels like summer here in California, and there's cool cars everywhere. Like it's just so much fun right now. Everybody I know is texting me pictures of cars that they see out because it's like it's car season and it's arrived. So JP, I am checking in high as a kite. Really good.
Glad to hear. You know, when you see those cars going down the road, you're going, wow, that car was worth more 6 months ago. That car was worth more 6 months ago. That car was worth more 6 months ago. We are going to talk about what's going on with prices on all the auction sites, and to do that, we brought an amazing guest today. Who do we got in studio today, Michael Deeb?
JP, we have none other than Zach Miller of Chicago, Illinois. Look at that. It's already nighttime in Chicago. You can tell Zach's in the dark here, eating Cheetos in the dark. What's happening, Zach? Welcome to the show. Finally, off of the comments page and into your living rooms. Give a warm round of applause. The Nerd Herd's favorite, Zach Miller. What's happening, man?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Long time listener. It's glad to finally be on here. I'm real, not just a commenter.
We thought you were AI until you got this. Until you got this avatar.
This generative AI, Zach Miller. He seems to know a lot about auctions.
What's it like to go from the Nerd Herd to actually being on that center panel right there? That's got to be a big deal, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, one of 50 and counting.
That's right. That's right. We've got a few. It's a rare.
I think
rare
we have a
air
good turnout tonight.
I think it is. Yeah, and it's all because of you. And I'm looking at the Nerd Herd. I'm looking at you guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You guys, look. There's a lot more people in the Nerd Herd tonight already than I see thumbs up. So if you're in the comment section, make sure you hit that thumbs up for us, guys, so we can get more people in the Nerd Herd. I think we've got some new nerd members, so welcome to everyone. If you're new to the show, if you've never seen this show before and you're here before Zach, make sure you join the conversation in the Nerd Herd in the comment section. It's a lot of fun, a lot of great people in there. A lot of times the best part of the show is going on in there. So definitely pay attention to what's happening in there. Before we get to analyzing our predictions from last episode and getting to new predictions, I just want to give a shout out to our good friends at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas. If you are in the market for a classic Porsche or parts for one, or just want to go down and look at a bunch of pretty old Porsches, head on down to Godden Classic and Godden Porsche of Las Vegas, or give Steve a call and he'll get you hooked up. So yeah, guys, hit that thumbs up button real quick. And if you're also going, yeah, I wish JP's watch was working a little better, you guys should be going to Hoursmith's. Check it out. I've got the shirt. Thanks for the t-shirt, Anthony. Hoursmith's Fine Swiss Repair for your fine Swiss watch, and they also always have a great selection of fine Swiss watches available for sale. Hit them up at Our Smiths. Okay, we are going to get to the show. Again, thank you, Zach, for hanging out with us today. Michael Deeb, what was the first car that we made a prediction on the last episode?
All right, JP. We selected a 2012 Porsche Cayman R that was on PCAR Market. Our car was showing just 11,000 miles, and it was located in Windsor, Connecticut. Now, JP, obviously, these cars are really special. They do have quite a bit more horsepower than the best Cayman of that edition. And of the, I think we called these 987s, right? Or something like that. Yeah, 987 generation. This was the last year. So as the Cayman bowed out, as the 987 generation of the Cayman bowed out, they decided to slap the R moniker on this car and make a really fantastic driving car, a track car, where you could order it with carbon bucket seats. You could get it with ceramics, although very few people did, because the guys who are really going to track these cars want Steelies. But this was the first one to come with a limited slip differential. And of course, they had like 330 horsepower, which was more than enough horsepower to get out of its own way. So this car being low miles and in really good condition, but being on PCAR Market, we wondered how it would go. So, John, I started the bidding at $70,000. You took the under at $65,987, and we had Chef in studio, and Chef guessed 73, making him the overbid. Zach, I'm sure you watched last week's show. We took a look at the black Cayman R on PCAR Market on the East Coast. Super low miles is the driving force of the value here. 11,000 miles is hardly enough to come back with a bad DME report or likely a salvage title. This one looks like it's just been a garage queen its whole life. What do you think happened here on PCAR Market?
I'm going to say 75.
75. And I have a sneaky suspicion Zach watched last week's episode and then went and did all his own homework. That's not a bad guess at all, Zach. You definitely would have won. Let's see, in the listings here, the highest bid I'm seeing, Christian and Chris both guessed 74. Christian gets the over because it went 74-1. Michael S. at 80. So Michael S. at 80, I like your bid. Believe it or not, JP, our car hammered for $76,500 on a more than respectable 53 bids where the car sold. And watching, with PCAR Market, sometimes these cars, the hammer happens, and then before it winds up in the deal tank, they're still trying to make deals all afternoon, and they get an offer. But this car sold in the natural auction. So again, PCAR Market rose to the occasion, met the demand of the market, and got the car sold for the consignor. This is a win-win-win. Zach Miller, welcome to the show. You got that one correct. Chef wins in studio from last week. And let me give it to Michael S. at 80,000. He would definitely be the winner in the herd. John, it's worth noting, and if I can go technical on you and direct you to the sheets right next to the link for that, I put a link for BAT. There was a gray car that ran this weekend on BAT, a gray Cayman R with 44,000 miles. This car was in Windsor, Colorado, but it was on the Superior platform, being on BAT. Now, the gray is pretty rare. Apparently, they only made a few of those in the gray, but it had 4 times the miles, like literally 4 times the miles. And this car, John, sold for $75,987. Meaning that it only got, it was within $1,500 of the other car. So either somebody paid too much for the gray car, or the guy who bought the black car on PCAR Market got a steal. Comparing these two, totally on the spot, who do you think did better?
You asking me or you asking Zach?
Let's ask Zach.
Let's throw
Zach to the fire.
Yeah.
Zach, 2 cars, totally different mileage, but they basically paid the same. Help us read the tea leaves here. Who overpaid or who got the screaming deal?
I don't know. I'm not one to really overpay a huge amount for the colors. I mean, it certainly does, make up some distance in certain cars, but I don't know. I think the PCAR Market car is right on the market there, because I was looking at another black one, a 2012 black one that sold in March for 74.5 with 14,000 miles.
There you go.
So that seems like a strong indicator to me. I mean, the gray one, yeah, I guess the 4x miles, the color makes up the distance there and takes it to about the same value. But for me,
Yeah.
I don't know if that really equates the same if I were buying it, but I think
So
I think
Zach,
both buyer and seller did pretty good on this one.
Zach says the Meteor car was overpaid for, and based on that comp from March, I'd say that's a pretty good indicator. JP, I mean, PCAR Market did the job.
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually PCAR Market, I think underdid the job because I just don't think Atlas Gray makes a damn bit of difference on the value of that car. That is not an interesting color for a Cayman R. I mean, look, the color everyone wants is green. If it were green or one of those weird colors, then it would bring big money. But I think the fact that the color on that other look. Gray is boring as F. I mean, it's even less interesting than silver, and I like silver cars. I don't see the appeal. The fact that it had way more miles, it says to me that okay, if PCAR Market can get basically the same money for a Cayman R as PCAR Market can get for one that has a quarter of the miles, I think this is an indication that PCAR Market fell down. The PCAR Market cars should have gone for a lot more money. I don't think this is an indication that PCAR Market did the job. I think it's an indication that PCAR Market fell down. I'm frankly shocked that the seller sold it and this thing didn't wind up in the deal tank because this is a much nicer car than the gray one.
Do you think it's an $80,000 example? Do you think that car should have brought in the 80s?
If it were on if it were on Bring a Trailer, I believe the black one would have gotten in the 80s for sure. Even with the suppression, or I don't know if suppression is the right word, even if with the correction in prices that we're seeing across the board on all platforms, PCAR Market is just not getting it done lately. Again, congratulations for them getting the car actually sold, but I think this is an abject failure. An 11,000 mile Cayman R goes for the same amount of money as a 40,000 mile one on Bring a Trailer. That's the headline.
Good juxtaposition, huh?
Right. So I'm glad you found that link on the other one. Now, let's see here. Our good friend Chris Carbine mentioned that the car was bought by a dealership. So Grand Prix brought it. Grand Prix,
that's
I think,
up in your old neck of the woods.
In Portland. So they're the right dealership to get a hold of this, and I think their audience is probably bigger than PCAR Markets. That's why you don't really see Grand Prix selling very often on any of the auction sites. So I think they'll realize that. I think they'll get the $80,000 for that car. I mean, what do you get for $80,000? That's this. I don't know, awesome to drive. I mean, on the last episode, I feel like I kind of poo-pooed the car. Maybe I didn't even.
I felt like you did too.
I did.
I felt like you did too.
Yeah,
I didn't think you liked it. Yeah.
I love these, right? I mean, they are great cars. I just don't think they're very interesting. And I know that sounds like, how do you reconcile those two things? I think this is the best driving, boring looking, invisible car you could probably get. We talked about the Lotus Emira recently, one of the first ones to hit the auction sites. Those are going for 100 plus, and everyone was comparing that car to like a GT4, and GT4s are still going for a little bit more, than $100,000. I think if you could get this car with hardly any miles in an $80,000 price range, I think you're going to get a car that's going to give you as much or more performance than the Lotus for sure, and it's going to work for years to come. And you're not going to be struggling to get parts and all those kinds of things. So, I think this is a good opportunity, and this is one of the. I mean, an opportunity to buy the car. That's what PCAR Market likes to say, right? I think it was a good. I think PCAR Market is fast becoming what it used to be, which was the place to get a deal because, it was just kind of like the redheaded stepchild. What do you think of that, Zach?
I don't know. I mean, I still stand by nearly the same car, three-ish months ago, went for a little bit less on Bring a Trailer, the site that, everyone says brings all the money. But here we are, 3 months later, market continues to normalize a little bit. And yeah, it's got 3,000 less miles, but I think that, warrants the extra 2K bump. And I don't know, it seems pretty on the money to me. I think you're talking $80,000 if you've got a green or a red one with similar miles or less.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. JP hates to admit that sometimes people overpay for color. He wants you to agree with him first and then answer his question. And you can't, because then you're denying the fact that two people fought over the gray car, believing, even if it's incorrectly, that the gray one was worth more money because it was a rarer shade. I agree with JP. Gray is a very uninteresting color. It's meteor gray. They slapped that on Panameras and Cayennes. But when somebody goes to market and says, hey, there's only 300 of these out of the 1,500 Cayman R's that they made, then you've got a couple of knuckleheads, or even just 35 of them, a couple of knuckleheads fighting over it when the superior car was on the other side for the same money. I think that Cayman was well built, and I still think PCAR Market did a good job with it.
Nice. All right. What do you guys think the results of this Cayman are? Is this a result of falling prices, or did the platform just not live up to their name? I mean, PCAR Market, man, if any place should be getting all the money for PCARs, it should be PCAR Market. How many people have asked you, isn't PCAR Market like the PCA auction site? It's like, no, they just pay to advertise on the PCA website. And I think they've done it. I mean, and to their credit, that was a good move on PCAR Market, advertising early on the PCA website, because I think that's the only way they're probably still in business. I will tell you that I do have a car for sale right now, and I put it on the PCA marketplace. That's the only place I listed it. And this week has been a very, very busy week here for me in the studio. And there was a moment where my phone rang, and I look over, and it was PCAR Market. And I was like trying to go, oh shit, how can I record this call? I was like looking around, and I was like so busy with a bunch of other stuff. I'm like, I want to answer this call so badly. So PCAR Market goes through the listings on PCA and tries to get everyone. We got an opportunity to sell your car.
John, opportunity.
Huh? What's that, Zach?
I was just saying, nothing gets past them, man. I would have sellers that would reach out to me and they'd be like, yeah, God forbid I click on a Porsche listing on a Mannheim auction for the next day, and PCAR Market's going to have 5 voicemails by the time I wake up.
It's so true. What were you going to say, Deeb? Sorry.
Opportunity on line 3. JP, pick up.
Hey, Zach, have you seen our latest little thing?
Yeah.
I need an excuse to do that. I mean, everybody wants T-shirts on it, but maybe we'll see what happens.
So we have an industry insider on the show tonight. Zach Miller, is it true that PCAR Market actually the P stands for pandering? Is that true?
Yeah, let's go with that.
That's pandering.
Absolutely.
Confirmed.
Makes sense.
You heard it here first. Confirmed.
All right.
Yes.
What else did we make a prediction on the last episode, Michael Deeb?
JP, I picked this car. First of all, I've never seen one in person, but this 1995 Chevrolet Camaro Z28 Callaway C8 Supernatural Coupe running no reserve on Cars and Bids. This is Hoovie's own car. It said owned by Hoovie's. It's currently owned by Hoovie. Number 3 of 17 built. This has got a Stroker LT1 V8 with let me read this to you because it's got some horsepower. This car makes 6.2 liter V8 is making about 420 horsepower and 420 pound-foot of torque. It's got a big old 6-speed dumped in there with a Hurst shifter. I mean, this is a cool car, but it's that Callaway body kit where you'd almost be forgiven for not remembering that there's a Camaro underneath there, because that nose is so distinct. Those strakes and the OZ wheels. This looks like something right out of Road and Track or Car and Driver from when we were in high school, JP, even though it's a 95 car. It just reminds me of the Corvettes that Callaway was doing in the 80s to go against the AMG Hammers and the Porsche, roof turbos and all that stuff. I felt like America's bid to supercar dominance was a Callaway Corvette. Well, here's the little brother, the Camaro. So, JP, really cool car. We didn't love that Hoovie owned it, but the car is located in Andover, Kansas, and was showing just 33,700 miles at the time of listing, and it's on Cars and Bids. So weird car on a weird car platform. I could say that in front of Zach, right, and without getting spit at. All right, and running no reserve, so we knew the car was going to sell. JP, I started the bidding at $28,000, really not having any idea where this car might go. Interestingly, you liked the car and took the over at $29,995. And
Whoa,
Chef,
whoa. Hold on. I didn't like the car. I
you
just thought
did.
it
You
was
loved
worth
it.
more. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Continue
and
on.
I recall you saying you couldn't see it getting past 20.
Yeah.
Fake
And then bid
news,
29.
Michael
Which I
Deeb.
Yeah. I'm setting an application for PCAR Market. I think I'm just working on my white belt technique. Chef,
Chris
everybody's
Como
favorite.
style. All right, here we go.
Chef, that guy right up there. Chef was in studio with JP, and he took the over by a lot. It was funny because Chef kind of bashed the car too, and then bid $33,300. Zach, you remember the car? What was your bid on the C8 Super Natural, being a naturally aspirated car with a big motor? What do you think this car would do on Cars and Bids?
Yeah, I remember looking at this one pretty closely. I was at 27, which
27, which put you below. That makes you the low man in the room. Looking at the bids in the park, we got Gerd right next to Chef at 33,000. And let's go with the results. So JP, our car fared pretty well on the platform. $33,000 on 37 bids, and because it was running no reserve, you know that it sold for that number. Gerd got himself a Yahtzee. Send him a sticker of Chef's head, and Chef missed a Yahtzee by $300. JP, I did the same thing, and I promised the last time I did it for tonight's show, but I slapped another URL next to the C8. Was on Bring a Trailer, running exactly at the same time. And initially, when I saw it, I wondered if it was the same seller, but it's not Hoobie's car. But it's a 1989 Chevrolet Corvette Coupe Callaway twin turbo with just 32,000 miles, also running no reserve. Now, this is, looks like it comes out of the same stable, with that body kit and special wheels and a Chevy platform. But this car with the twin turbos is making some ridiculous honky stonk horsepower. JP, I'm just going to read this to you and then give you the result. But these things, you're talking about 400 horsepower and 560 pound-foot of torque. And again, in 89, that was world class. That was everything. Again, running no reserve, this car made $42,500. I don't know that there's anything to decipher between those two results. I feel like on Cars and Bids, they got the most for that car. That I don't know that car would have brought any more money on BAT. And I think 42.5 for this old Chevy thing, where if something broke, I don't know who you'd bring it to get it fixed. But like for this old relic, 42.5 seems like a pretty good deal. Ran no reserve. I feel like that's probably all the money because that's the biggest auction platform in the world. Do you like comparing those two? They're pretty similar. No reserve, similar mileage, same damn color.
This one's more forgivable. This generation of the Corvette is a much better looking car to begin with than that final generation of the Camaro. I don't know if it's the final, whatever generation of Camaro that was. The 90s versions were pretty damn terrible. And this one is acceptable because it's a 1989 car, right? So this was sitting in a dealership somewhere for sale, in late 88 or sometime it was still the 80s, Ronald Reagan was still the president. Clinton was getting blowjobs in the White House when that Camaro was for sale. It is way, way, way past this 80s look. That's just not, by then it was way out of date. In 89, this was the height of this look. And so, I think the Corvette definitely makes sense. Although the Corvette is an automatic instead of the 6-speed of the Camaro. What do you think of putting those two cars together there, Zach?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I honestly didn't even know about this C8 Supernatural thing until I discovered the auction on Cars and Bids, and I love Callaways. Like I love the Sledgehammer, I love the C16 Speedster, and then the older ones like the one you're mentioning here. But I mean, I think this was all the money. When you guys were talking about it last week, I also felt like, all right, like I think it's gonna get over 20, but probably not by much. But it went well beyond, obviously. Interestingly enough, the same car sold at Mecum in November for the same price. Now, granted, we might be looking at some buyer's fees included in that price that's documented since it's Mecum, but interesting. It's definitely on the perfect platform. This would have just gotten lost in the shuffle on Bring a Trailer. I think it would have just looked like a random kit car to probably half of their audience, which is kind of what I thought of it the first time I saw it too. So I don't know. I think that's more than all the money for this thing. I mean, it just looks bizarre. It doesn't look like the kind of Callaway that's going to be looked on kindly, in decades on.
It would be interesting if there was some way to find out if the car would have done better on, say, Haggerty Marketplace, because they do have a lot of people going there for American muscle. But that said, Hoovy supporting the listing and his, I don't know what, he works with Doug DeMuro directly. They have a relationship, so it makes sense that the two of those names propping up of the listing is always going to help. I mean,
yes,
it's some people in the comments are going, "Oh, people paid a premium for the Hoovy thing." I don't know if anybody necessarily pays more to get a Hoovy car. I'm like, I mean, usually it seems like.
They usually pay less.
Yeah, right. It would go the other way. I think the trick is, because usually his cars get kind of janky work, right? He makes videos about how he's cutting stuff up and doing all kinds of how, I mean, his whole persona is, I bought the crappiest version of X and then made it better with the Wizard, and he doesn't always really get it up to a high standard. But all that said, the exposure that the listing winds up getting because of his platform combined with Doug DeMuro's platform. Zach, or do any of you guys in the audience know, was there a video about this car? Did Doug make a video saying, "Hey, this is Tyler's car"? Did anybody catch that?
Oddly enough, there wasn't, and I'm kind of shocked. This would have been the perfect car to blast a full review on, of which I would have loved to see myself, just because I didn't know anything about this thing. I don't know what kind of promotion Tyler maybe did on his own, but yeah, they didn't have anything official with Doug. I mean, obviously they did all the normal promotion that they do, but missed opportunity there in my mind.
Yeah, even if they had, do you think there's any chance it would have gotten really much more money than this? I think that's a pretty good number.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you reach maybe an extra set of eyeballs who are just isolated in the YouTube world, but I don't think that's going to really translate to a lot more dollars than what we got here.
Yeah, good take. What do you guys think of the results of Tyler Hoovy's Chevrolet Camaro Z28 Callaway? Was that all the money for this car, or should Doug DeMuro have done a video about the car, and would the car have brought even more? And does this kind of fly in the face of the idea that prices are falling on classic cars? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And what's the next car on the list, Michael?
All right, JP. This is a 1982 Mercedes Benz 230 CE, but as JP flashes this car on the screen, it doesn't look anything like that, because this car has been rebuilt to replicate a 300 SL Gullwing, including a 4-speed manual transmission. Feast your eyes on this thing. It's sporting a 2.3-liter inline-4, again, a 4-speed manual transmission, and then 15-inch wheels with the hubcaps. But the bodywork here is the entire story. I mean, at a glance, you would be absolutely forgiven for thinking that is the real thing, and it's not. But that's about as excellent a replica as I've seen, at least from the sheet metal. I think it's a little less believable once we turn to the inside of the car. It's just not as ornate, or the fit and finish isn't as good on the inside as it is on the outside. But the exterior of this car has got to turn heads everywhere if that's your game. We have to see if the Chris Carbine, according to Ann, who now crowns him the Chris Carbine, see if Chris buys one for Ann for a birthday present. I think Ann would look really good down there in the Southern Belle in a fine automobile like this, sipping iced tea. That'd be pretty cool. So shout out to Ann. Thanks for joining us tonight. And everybody from now on, it's the Chris Carbine, and the is capitalized. But JP, super nice car. Not to get too far off topic, cars on Bring a Trailer. It was out of Jupiter, Florida. 300 miles shown, but true mileage unknown. There were some comps that people were saying. There was like one listed for 300 and something thousand, and it classified somewhere. And somebody in LA is doing these things, so we heard about that in some of the comments. But John, we had really nothing to go on. I said $150,000, and I moved my bid up as I spoke it. And then everybody went over me. JP, you were at 170, and then Chef was at 189,000. Zach, first question: have you ever seen a 300 SL replica like this before? And what was your bid on this car as you played along with us last time?
I had no idea what to do with this thing. I mean, I've never seen one. I don't even know. I'm sure maybe I've seen one over the years, but I've seen a fair amount of actual original 300 SL Gullwings. So I mean, this, you can obviously tell it's a replica, but this is one of those things where you could tell me it sold for 100, you could tell me it sold for like 250, and
Yeah.
I'd have no way to base it.
Okay, but did you guess a bid? What like
Oh, I don't know if
just
I
slap
did
a
on this
number
one.
on
I would have said something similar to you, probably like 140,
140?
145.
All right, yeah,
Let's go with
that's
140
tempered.
then.
I get it. So I'm looking at Kevin at 195, and it looks like he was the high man in the herd. Nope, Gerd is at $210,000. We got to ban Gerd from the show. Our car sold for $211,000. Gerd, this might be your most impressive guess to date. I know you missed a Yahtzee by $1,000, but the fact that you could look at this super obscure car and guess the value of it, I mean, my seat is here. You could just take it. JP would be thrilled, except JP would never win again. 49 bids, John. There was a lot of action on this car. It sold for 211. I mean, I don't know if to tell you if that's a good result or a bad result, but it's a result all the same. Clearly, the seller was happy with it because he accepted it. And Gerd, I think he's got a magic ball or like an 8 ball or
Well,
something like
he has
that.
the internet. He went and looked up, I believe, on the last episode, he found this exact car sold not that long ago for like 210. So I think there it is. How do you predict how? I mean, the big question is, would the price go down or up? Having just sold, been bought and sold recently, and apparently, comparing it to the last sale, it's gone up a little bit. So our price is falling, like we said at the top of the show. I guess not.
Well,
This is the most obscure car. How do you comp something like this?
Well, let's talk about that, JP. So it just sold, and it sold again for the same money. And as remember, we were just looking at that Chevrolet Camaro that Callaway did, and Zach Miller said that actual car sold, in the last year at one of the big live auctions for very similar money. Like I think he said the same damn dollar amount. So explain to me, JP, how these guys are going to live auctions, buying these cars, and then turning around. Are they trying to flip them, or are they just dumping the cars by throwing them on an online auction? Do we think people are trying to flip? Is that what the name of the game is, as it's early in the season? Because so far, I don't think anybody's making any money.
Well, and then especially if you factor in inflation, I mean, if you bought this car 6 months ago, $200,000 6 months ago is worth more than $200,000 is worth now. You're losing 10%. I mean, you look at regular used cars. If you go to if you talk to the car dealerships, they're like, used cars on the car lots are dropping 1% a week or more in some cases. Yeah, and that trend has been going on for a year now. So it's getting pretty hard out there for regular cars. So the big question is, is that affecting these classic and collectible cars? And I think the answer is yes, but just not as much. I think the people that have $200,000 to throw at a replica Mercedes are people that probably are not quite sweating the inflation thing yet, because it hasn't, they don't care that a McDonald's Big Mac used to be, 99 cents and now it's $7 or whatever, because that just doesn't mean anything to them, and that person isn't buying a $200,000 replica, so that's why it affects a Hyundai Sonata or whatever a lot more. But I think we're going to see a lot of people looking at their collection of cars, because let's face it, someone that has this car probably has lots of other cars, or at least a few other interesting cars. This is not the first car in your sports car or classic or collectible car garage. So I think we're going to see collectors thinning the herd and trying to figure out, okay, can I offload some things now, and maybe there's an opportunity coming soon where I can replace some of those things that I get rid of for less money. Because if you think that the market is going to continue to go down or even tank in the next 6 months or a year, then you could make the argument, then, all right, I'll sell my fake Gullwing for $200,000, and then maybe next summer I'll buy one for $150,000. I don't know. What do you guys think out there of the results of this replica Gullwing? Was the seller smart to take that money? Were they just trying to flip it and failed? What do we think? Was this? Does the platform have anything to do with the result of this? Would they have done better by trying to sell this car at a live auction? I want to know from you guys. Let us know in the comments below. And I do believe that is all the cars that we made a prediction on last week. Is that right? Or the last episode?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with all new predictions. We're trying to figure out if prices are falling on sports cars, on BaT, Cars and Bids, PCAR Market, and more. We got Zach Miller in the house with us. We will be right back. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. There it is, just like it says on my shirt, so it must be true. Welcome back to Bid Nerds, everyone. Thanks for hanging out. This is a show where we make predictions on car auctions from, I don't know, Cars and Bids, PCAR Market, Bring a Trailer, and more. It's like The Price is Right. Play along. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. If you are new to the show, make sure you hit the subscribe button. You guys, we are like literally a dozen or maybe 24 subs away from hitting 2,000 subs. It's a big deal for us. So thank you to the Nerd Herd and the Nerd Nation for being a subscriber, and maybe we'll get to 2,000 during this episode. How cool would that be?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Let's get some new subscribers tonight. If you're watching tonight and you're not a subscriber for the show, please hit the subscribe button.
Do us a favor.
I mean, if there's ever everybody on these shows always say, hey, hit the subscribe button, but it really means a lot. And you could be the 2,000th subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
That would get you nothing, but we'll love
a hug.
you.
A hug. Big hug.
Yeah, somebody can take the credit for being the 2,000th subscriber. Let's make it happen. All right, we've got some new predictions. What cars we got on the list? What's the first one, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, before we go any further, I'm just reading the comments, and Anthony Vieira says, hey, guys, Randy just had a birthday, so we need to wish him a happy birthday. Randy, our scorekeeper, he's our statistician, everybody's favorite. Randy's the best. We've met him. JP and I have met him on several occasions, and he is just about the nicest human being there is. Randy, thank you for being part of the show. You really are an integral part of it, and I love the love that he's getting. Everybody's wishing happy birthday to Randy in the comments, so just a big shout out to Randy. We love you, man. Thank you very much. JP, I picked for us a really fun car on Cars and Bids. It's a 1991 Lamborghini Diablo Coupe. Our car is showing, let me read it to you just so I do this correctly because it's in kilometers. It says it's a U.S. market car, but it's showing 28,000 kilometers. And that's in the listing. So I don't know how to make sense of that. Maybe if we knew somebody that understood how they do it at Cars and Bids, they could explain it to us. But they're basically configuring that to be 17,600 miles. But I'm confused by the idea that this is a U.S. market car and it's reading in kilometers. So I wonder if it went like to Canada and came back and they haven't changed it yet. But if it's on a U.S. title, it has to be flipped back. So that's a little confusing right off the bat. Our car is located in Las Vegas, Nevada. So JP, if you wake up early tomorrow, you go test drive this thing and let us know if it's worth the money. But a beautiful white car, rear wheel drive, 5.7 liter V12. Believe it or not, JP, 1991, this car still had a 5-speed manual. But this was, this is the car that came after the Countach. And you look at the Countach and just see how exotic and iconic it is. And you think to themselves, how could they go any more wild? How could they get more fabulous? And somehow they did. The Diablo is a looker, equally as exotic and as entertaining to the eyeball as the Countach was. But this is a car that was certainly a step forward with, fuel injection. It still had wild sort of phone dial wheels. These are 17-inch OZ racing wheels. They still had pop-up headlights, and this car had scissor doors. I mean, so this is as Lamborghini as they get, but just super wild. And even today, I mean, look at these photos. They're good photos. I mean, you almost can't go wrong, JP. If you go out to Red Rock early enough and take some shots, you're going to get something. Even if you're just an average photographer, you're going to get some good shots out there. These are fun photos. I just like the car. We have seen in the last year Doug DeMuro's site bring, top of the market money for some of these wild exotic cars. There was famously a Lamborghini Countach that was the first year US car, so an actual domestic car that brought hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't remember the result, JP, but I think it was like 600 grand or 800 grand, which was all the money for that model at that time. And now somebody's hired a photographer. They've got a nice car and they've gotten some good shots, and they've brought it back to Cars and Bids and not bring a trailer, which I think is really interesting, to try and get all the money for this Diablo. So JP, what do you like about the images? Is there anything about the photos you don't like? What do you think about this car versus the Countach? Wouldn't this just make more sense? It's less money, and arguably a teeny bit more reliable car, although using reliable with this generation of Lamborghini is probably the wrong thing to do. But do you like this thing, or what? What do you see when you look at this car? This is pretty cool. This just looks like should be in a hip hop video, right?
Jamiroquai, right? I mean, back in the day, all the new Lambos, none of them are as cool as this thing. I mean, you can go get an SVJ, you can get all your Huracans and blah 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 blah. They just scream douchebag. Something about this car screams old douchebag. Yeah, it's like I like this car. I mean, I think white looks spectacular. It looks great in Red Rock, of course. It is funny talking about the idea of reliability here. I think this is probably the most simple version of this car, right? I think, so that bodes well for its longevity and actual drivability, because you look at cars like this and they just scream, drive me. And I know everyone talks about how terrible they are from a reliability point of view, but I think a lot of times it's because people are just too damn scared to drive them, so they don't get driven, and that's just a vicious circle. The more you neglect driving these cars, the more they deteriorate. The less reliable they are to drive. So I say drive it all the time. We talked about one of these recently. It was a beat up yellow one. Wasn't that on Cars and Bids too, or was that Bring a Trailer?
I remember that one.
You remember that one, Zach?
Roadster.
Yeah, and it was just roached out, and it was fun talking about that car. But this is really what everyone wants. If you want one of these cars, this is just all the sex. Zach, what do you think of this car?
Okay, so me being me, I'm over here investigating the history of this thing. I believe, if I had to guess, I think what this is supposed to say is this Diablo is a North American spec car, and it's been imported from Canada. Because
got it. Thank you.
The seller references some former history. It looks like it RNM'd or didn't meet the reserve on PCAR Market back in February for 200. Yeah, it was in Vancouver. So this thing went to market earlier this year, and it's always impossible to find the price on PCAR, but it looks like it was bid up to about 237K, and now it's here.
237. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so someone went through the trouble of importing it over, and that's why you get the kilometer readout here. I don't know. It's a tough one. This isn't really a blue. It's a beautiful car. I love Diablos. I love it in this color. Honestly, I'm usually not a big white car guy, but I think it looks great. They did phenomenal presentation, almost 300 pictures. I don't know. I feel like maybe somewhere around that ballpark, honestly, like 225.
Hang on. We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
We'll set you up a little better instead of putting you on the spot for the number. But as we're going through this, Zach, I can't find what state it's titled in, and I'm sure it's like really obvious, and I just glazed over it. But if you can find out,
it's titled in Washington State.
Washington State, interesting.
So they brought it down from Vancouver, titled it quickly in Washington, and now it's, I guess, in Vegas, wherever the seller is. Yeah.
Interesting. There it is. Yeah, clean Washington title right there in the beginning. That's why I missed it. I tried to find it in the comments. Interesting, JP. Very interesting. So a Canadian car now in the U.S. Probably brought in on the 25-year thing. So I don't think you could get this car titled in California, but everywhere else is green light. Anything else you want to add, John, before we get into the numbers?
Well, I don't know. VinTracker is saying all early Diablos are in kilometers. Is that true? I don't know if that's true or not. One way or the other. Can anyone confirm that? Gotta love the nerd herd
That
for bringing info like that, right? Zach, do you know anything about that?
no, that could be true, but someone's gonna have to prove us right or wrong on that one.
Yeah. I'd like to find out. All right. Well, what do we think this car is going to bring?
Yeah. So yeah, VinTracker. Okay, I'm reading what you're reading, JP. I'm right behind you. All right. So John, theoretically, let's see. The average price of the Lamborghinis was, God, I just had it up. It was like $230-something thousand, which is where this car went to on PCAR Market. I think this car is worth more money than that. I don't think this is an average one. I think this is a little bit above average one. We've seen some cars that have been driven. We've seen some Diablos with higher miles. This one seems to be clean. The fact that it's already on a Washington state should get people very interested in it. And there's nothing blocking the road to the sale unless you live in California and don't have, if you live in California and you're shopping for cars like this, you already have a Montana LLC. So I just feel like there's really no hurdles in the way of this car getting, more or less a better retail number. So our car is sitting at $202,000 on 26 bids, and it closes tomorrow, basically in 15 hours from now. Now, historically, we don't see cars and bids get a lot of action at the end, but I still think this car's got room to go before it closes. JP, I think it'll make it all the way up to $275,000, where it was at $237 previously. And at my number, $275, I think it sells this time. So I'm confident in my bid at $275. JP, where are you at? We're at $202 now, and it closes tomorrow.
I guess I got to cheat off of Gerd because I was thinking like 2.5. He's at 269, but I just don't think it's going to climb up that high. You know, and betting against Gerd is a tough move. What was your number, Deeb? To what?
I was over Gerd at 275, and you said you don't think it's going to get that high. What is it? Is it the platform? Is it the car? Is it the miles? Is it the Canadian history? Why don't you think this one will bring, quote unquote, all the money?
I think prices are falling on sports.
So you think
cars.
It's the market? So
I think this is going to be. I think this is a very good example of a car that I think is going to be very susceptible to that kind of pressure. I think a Huracan or any new exotics are really getting hurt. The older classic exotics like this one, I think, are far more insulated than the modern ones. But I mean, it's tough to say this. I mean, we were just talking about before the break that stupid, and I liked it, but that stupid 300 SL Gullwing replica still brought over $200,000, and that car, if there is a big old market correction, you got to think that one's going to take an ish before something like this that is the real article. But I'm going to go just under and say 265 and pass it on to Zach.
You said you don't think it's going to get that high, and then you're in the same neighborhood. I think JP is picturing this Lamborghini in his garage with what do they call it? The unicorn wrap?
Yeah, right. I'm trying to drive the market down, and I'm going to call AJ and have him get that. I'm going to
unicorn wrap.
I'm going to peel the wrap off of his and try to put it onto mine, see if he notices. Zach, what do you think this car will bring?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the not feeling that it's going to get all the way up there. I don't know. I think it struggles to. I think it's more about the car for me. I think this. Like I was saying a moment ago, this isn't a blue chip example. It's got some imperfections that are going to deter some really serious collectors. It's got a custom exhaust, and it doesn't seem like it comes with the originals. That's not going to be for everybody. It's got some electronic and audio modifications that also aren't going to be to everybody's taste. I'm going to say like 235.
Wow.
I don't think it's going to. I don't think this is the Diablo to get up there.
So you don't think this car will bring more than it did on PCAR Market? Because correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, you said it was 237 reserve not met on PCAR Market. Yeah. Did it wind up in the deal tank? Do we have any idea what it wound up in the chum bucket for?
I don't think it did, but it didn't sell for 238. Only
238.
Four months, about like 3.5 months ago.
Interesting.
I just similar to what John was saying about the market. I don't see this car being susceptible in such a short period of time to a massive rise in its second run on a different platform.
Anthony Vieira of Smiths, as part of the Spud Syndicate, is right there with you, Zach. His bid was 235.5, so you guys can fight over a Yahtzee if it gets to that number. But that's it. You two are the low men. Christian's at 243. But from Buddha at 250, also Michael S. is at 238. But from Buddha at 250, all the bids are up near me and JP. Buddha at 250, let's see, Buddha 250, Carbine at 269, Peter George at 285, Indy Dave 266, Paul at 276.5, Kevin at 269. They're all high bids. SC, let's see, Tom is at 272. And that's kind of it right now. So I'm waiting for Ed Blair. He says, you guys need to know more about cars and classic cars. You're right, Ed. We do. That's why we do the show. Enlighten us. Throw a bid in, Ed. Let's see what you got, my man. That's what's the great part of this show, is that people can come in and say, hey, prove your mettle. And let us what is it that we're missing, my man. This is great. And Nerd Herd, let's get some engagement in there. Talk to each other. Ed, you are more than welcome to play along and give your take on the car, and we'll be happy to put it down on the bottom here. Absolutely.
I love it. So this is great. And welcome to the show, Ed.
Lick the stamp and send it, Ed. Come on, put your bid in and let's play along. We're all having fun.
And Ed, have you hit the subscribe button yet? Come on.
Yeah, we'll get Ed a t-shirt.
Stop being one of those guys on the internet and just enjoying the fun. Have a good, relax, maybe pour yourself a drink and enjoy the show. It's a good time. Right on. All right. Okay, so we've all got our bids in there. It's going to be interesting to watch this one. I think this really is. This is I always say it, canary in the coal mine type of situation. Yeah. This is one of those cars. And Zach, you said it. It's not blue chip, right? The blue chip cars, I think, are always going to be insulated from market fluctuations in one way or the other. But this car being not perfect means it is going to be more susceptible to fluctuation. And if this car does not perform well, I think that is a good indication that there is, in fact, something of a correction going on. And I think that's pretty obvious anyway. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below, including you, Ed. And let's move on to the next car.
JP, I have the privilege of being on a text chain with Yuri and John, our buddies here in San Francisco. Yuri loves Italian cars, which is part of the reason why I love Yuri. And John loves all cars and sends some weird ones. But the two of them, and I think it was Yuri that posted this one, this 1969 Alfa Romeo 1750 Spider Veloce that is on Bring a Trailer right now with the seller Wob out of Thousand Oaks, California. We've seen, JP, we've actually done quite a few cars out of this particular studio. You'll recognize that dark background as this car is shot in studio. But the first generation of the Alfa Spider is affectionately referred to as the Duetto. And in America, or in England, they called them boat tail spiders because of the very unique sculpted rear ends of these cars. This is a Pininfarina design, and they're just really, really pretty cars, and they're great driving cars. These cars handle, and they've got peppy engines. The 66, 67, and 68 came with 1,600 cc twin cam 4-cylinder motors, 5-speed transmission, rear wheel drive, and those cars all were carbureted. In 1969, they introduced the 1750, and in Europe, those cars remained carbureted. But for the American market, the ones we got here, those cars came with a Spica fuel injection system, or it would be Spica if we're going to try and say it in Italian. And it made these cars really easy to live with, because similar year Fiats were still running with carburetors, and carburetors at different altitudes can just be so problematic. And if you don't have a good mechanic and he can't tune the carburetor or knows how to rejet it or whatever, just be a troublesome car to live with. But a fuel injected car with a bigger motor in that original body, 69s are kind of the ones to have. This car looks to be exceptionally clean, JP, showing 76,000 miles. I wouldn't imagine that's original, but the car looks beautiful. I can tell you that those gorgeous wheels on there did not come on the car. Those are 14-inch Chromadora, they call them Daytona wheels. Those are magnesium wheels, and they're beautiful. A set of those will probably cost you a couple $1,000s to get, and finding 14-inch tires is no easy feat these days. But the wheels that would have come on this car would have been steel. A lot of people upgraded to later model aluminum wheels. But occasionally you see somebody find a pair of these Daytonas that are magnesium. They're really handsome on the car, and somehow the car just looks cooler knowing it has exotic materials attached to it. So an exceptional early car. The year to get being a 69 with the 1750. It's got a Nardi steering wheel on there. Believe it or not, JP, these cars, a lot of these cars didn't even come with seat belts. So most of the cars that you see today, somebody goes out and gets some lap belts on there with those gooseneck clamps and cinch them in there. Really, really cool car. Super fun to drive. Dustin Hoffman drove one in the Graduate. And then Alfa adopted the Graduate moniker and labeled some of their later versions of this car. But these early ones are absolutely my favorite. They're achingly pretty. And this is the one to have. Like I said, JP, you've driven mine, my dad's old car, which is exactly this, a 69 with the 1750 injected motor. And it's got just the right power to be entertaining to drive. Certainly it's not a fast car, but you can drive it fast and have fun with it. So here we go. JP, what do you think of this 69 Alfa Spider Veloce? Thank you, Yuri, for picking the car.
Yeah, thanks, Yuri. Absolutely. Your driving yours is just a great memory. I that one time I came to the city and you handed me the keys to your dad's car. That was one of the better motoring experiences of my life. I'll say it. That was such a great day that we spent driving up to Marin, having breakfast, and then we went to wine country, and then we went all the way down to Santa Cruz.
That's right.
And it was freezing by the time we were going home, and it was a long day in this car. And the idea of driving around and putting as many miles as we put on that car should give someone anxiety when it comes to the idea of driving an old Italian car like this around and driving it as hard as we did. It's not like we were, banging corners and apexing and all that kind of stuff. You had your 914.6, and we just had a great day. And this little car just... It never missed a beat, man. And now It's not this exact car. Your dad's car has been fine-tuned by your friend Rafi, and everyone knows him as the expert that he is. I've owned newer Alphas. I've Alpha Spiders in particular, but that was the first time I got to experience one of these. And I always wondered back in the day when I remember when these cars. Back in the 90s, you'd look at something like an 85 Alpha Spider, and that would be worth, I don't know, $5,000 or something like that back then, or even in the 2000s. But the Duettos were always like 2 or 3 times more money, and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, why are they so much more expensive? What the hell? And it wasn't until, not that long ago that I got to drive yours, and, it was like, oh. Okay, that's because they are better. Zach, what do you think of this beautiful little Italian sports car? Have you ever experienced one, and what's your take on this thing?
Yeah, I have not experienced one. I honestly don't know too much about these older Alphas. I mean, beautiful cars. Agreed with a lot of the comments you made on it already. I don't know. These older Italian roadsters, once they get beyond the 80s, they all just kind of start to blend together for me, or even just like European roadsters. You showed me, the Fiat 124s and the MGs and the Triumphs and everything, and my mind just kind of starts melting them all together for some reason. But yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful car. This looks like a good example. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see where this ends up. The market results sort of seem all over the place with miles and pricing. But you guys were talking about the Doug and Hoovy tax earlier. I think in addition to being on Bring a Trailer to begin with, you definitely have a little bit of a seller tax on WAB with many of their listings. So we'll see what that ends up doing. They have their system down with presentation and all that. So.
Yeah, there is a comment. Let's see here. Comment in our comment section. Someone mentioned that they saw someone posted "buyer beware" in the comments on BAT. Has anybody gotten a chance to look at that comment? And it'd be interesting to maybe dig deeper into that. What are the reactions to that comment?
Yeah, no, it's like ongoing, but yeah, it seems like there's a lot of chatter about metalwork from some previous repairs on the car, as well as, this appears to be a TMU listing with the miles shown, and then there's a lot of chatter about the service record rollbacks and so forth. So I
Yeah,
don't know. You'll have to see
they're
how the
talking
seller
about
handles it and where that
they're
ends up.
wondering if they replace the speedo, so they're saying buyer beware. But I can tell you this: when we get to an Alpha of this age, it's the condition of the motor right now. Alphas
Yeah.
inherently drip oil, but like if this car is clean and it's burning clean and it sounds good and it's it's got recent service, or perhaps even a recent rebuild on the motor in like the last like 6-7 years or something like that, then the mileage almost doesn't matter. The good news about this, JP, versus owning a Porsche, any old Porsche, even compared to a 914, parts on these are pretty affordable. You can go through a car like this pretty easy. So I get that he's saying buyer beware, but we're not talking about $100,000 investment in a long hood Porsche. We're talking about an old Alfa Romeo that the odometer to me on a car like this doesn't matter. If it's not rotting out and it's not pouring oil out of it, then it's by Alfa standards, that's a good car. And so owning an old Italian car is not for the faint of heart. It's really pretty well. It's currently sitting at $23,500. That's just on 4 bids, but it's up there already. It still has 3 days to go. And John, this car looks like a nice one. I think it's going to bring another 20 grand. I will give you my opening bid at $43,500, putting 20 grand over where it's at right now between now and 3 days from now when this car hammers on Bring a Trailer in California. So JP, the bid to you is $43,500. Duettos certainly bring a lot more money than any of the later cars. The only cars that bring more money than these would be like the last generation, and they would have to have super documented low miles, thus being quote unquote collectible. But as far as fun for miles, driving for miles, I think a 69 is the one that you want, and that's why I think this one will make it into the 40s. Where are you?
Oh my gosh, I am so into this car. I'm going to say it doubles.
Yeah.
So what's that? 47 grand.
Yeah.
I mean, this colorway, and you mentioned the idea of comparing this to a long hood, and I'm so with you there. I could seriously see one of these in my future. As a 911 replacement, just because I really love the idea of a car that doesn't cost $30,000 when the engine fails. I'm just so over that ish.
Yep.
So yeah, this car is just sex on wheels. I think this car is classier, more beautiful. I would way rather own this car than the Diablo that we just talked about before this
right.
one. And just hands down, like I could see this car in my life. The Diablo is just so silly. Zach, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm thinking 42.
42 is taking the under. That's conservative. We're with you. That's okay, Zach.
And why?
You're still in the 40s. Yeah.
I can't say I have a really solid reasoning. I mean, to Deeb's point a moment ago, like so many of these are sold as TMU, so it's hard to really trace a pricing trend on these. I don't know. Maybe I could see it going maybe a little higher just because of the seller. But I don't know. There's some of these with 90,000 miles that are selling for 60, and then there's some of these with let's see, like 30, 40,000 miles that are selling for less. So I don't know. I'll say 43 just to shake things up a bit.
Okay. 43. He changed his bid. He talked himself out of it, John.
Yeah, I talked myself into a little bit of a bump for Wobb's sake.
Right
There's
on.
a couple of bids in the low 40s. Christian's at 34, and I see Buddha at 33, Kevin at 35, Scott is at 38.5, Anthony's at 39, and then we get into the 40s. Gerd at 41, which is going to make Zach wish he stayed at 42. Peter George at 45. Peter George has owned more than a few Italian cars. He had the coupe version of this car, and if I may, Peter George, Peter sold his car after he got to Las Vegas, which is, we're going back, 7 years ago or something. And Peter sold his GTV, 69 GTV, with the same drivetrain and the same platform of this car, but a Bertone coupe. And that car brought $70,000, which was
Nice.
a ton of money in like 2018 or whatever it was when he got to Vegas. And sold that car. And I mean, I thought about buying it. He offered it to me for way less than that. He put it on BAT and he knocked it out of the park. He did as good with an Alpha as as Solomon did with his GT4. You know what I mean, JP?
Yeah.
So
and
then
doesn't Peter
let's
George
see.
have a GT4 now too?
He does. He does. Go figure. Yeah. Carbine's at 40. Indy Dave is at 42. And if I missed anybody, I apologize. Brian was at 34.5. I think that's everybody. I don't think I missed anybody. But there you go. That's pretty good. I think we're all on the hunt, JP. It'll be interesting to see what this car does. I don't think this car will break 50. I'd be shocked if it did. But those bids in the low 30s, I just think there's more car there than that. Like I feel like my car, which is not cosmetically as nice as this one, but my car is like a driver. Suspension and the motor's been just tuned. Even as nice as mine is, it wouldn't. I don't think mine would break 40, but I think this one does. And the color, like you said, JP, you give a shout out to the colorway being silver. You just don't see that many of them silver. That car would look beautiful with a couple of decals on it. What a cool car.
Yeah, I mean, this thing driving down the road, I think a lot of people, like you said, Zach, I mean, I'm kind of with you. It's like a lot of these old Italians, it's like, is that a Ferrari? Is that a Alfa? Is that a old Maserati? I don't know. It's just gorgeous, so who the hell cares? What do you guys think this thing will bring? This will be another good kind of test to see what's going on in the market, because this isn't a blue chip car, and I think that's the theme of the evening, is non-blue chip cars are the ones that really show what's happening in the market. So this one's kind of out there on the margin. It'll be fun to watch what happens, and let's get to the next car. What do we got?
If somebody does get that car in the 30s, they stole it. I'll tell you that. Yeah. JP, I picked this car because I love these stupid things, but I can't. Every time I see one, I'm like, my heart goes, eh. I literally showed it to my wife, and I was like, what do you think? And she just looked at me with stink eye, side eye, stink eye. In 1980s. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's like, sign here. She goes, press down real hard. You got to make 3 copies, right? So 1987 Mercedes Benz 190E 2.3 16 Cosworth on PCAR Market. Our car is showing just 49,000 miles, and that's probably why I want it. The other part of it is that it's in Artesia, California. I'm guessing that's some town in Southern California on the outskirts of LA. I don't really care. If it's titled in California, it means it passed smog in California. If it's in California, I can drive it home, so I don't have to pay stupid tax for buying cars on the East Coast and pay $2,500 to $2,800 to get it towed to my house, and have to wait 2 weeks to get it until the tow truck delivery guys bring it. This car, John, just looks really clean. I bought a nice one out of Massachusetts a few years ago. You and I drove that car a couple times, and then you helped me sell it on BaT. And thank God you held my hand through the process, and we got that car sold, and I was happy to let it go. But my car had like 70-something thousand miles, and when it rained, I got water. Like, I think my car had been hit. This car just looks like it might be a little nicer than the one I had. These cars only came in 2 colorways, this blue Schwartz and smoke silver. I've owned both, but the black ones are really cool. I dig these things. Dog leg, get drag, Cosworth head. You got to rev the snot out of them. Self-leveling rear suspension. I've got, JP, I put mine on coilovers, took it off of coilovers and sold the car. So I've got suspension to put on this car. I really should be buying it, but we'll see, John. We'll see if I accidentally buy it, when it closes next week. But a clean car in California, I got to say, JP, these cars were so loved, even though they only sold them in the United States for like 2 years. They put a lot of them on the road, and everybody who's enjoyed them. This car suffers the Volkswagen thing where like the second, third, and fourth owners of these cars, JP, are all young guys that don't have a garage. They can't really afford to keep up on the maintenance. Sometimes it's cheaper to just buy a modified part than to repair original parts and go back to OEM. So a lot of these cars have exceptionally high miles. A lot of them have been beat to snot, and a lot of them don't remain completely stock like this one does. So I can't remember, since we've been doing the show, a 190E that's come to market under 50,000 miles. This one's really clean. It's in California. It's a manual. Probably a third of these are automatic transmission cars, which is just, it's like finding out somebody's kitten died. That just makes you cry. But anyway, the manual, low miles, the right color, it's here. I should buy. I'm trying to talk myself into buying this thing. But JP, you look at it, ish on it, and talk me out of it. The platform notwithstanding, the idea that, like, God, you got to give them a credit card number. I wonder if they blacklisted me and you yet. Like, have either one of us tried recently to buy a car on this platform? Would our bid even get registered? I mean, anything bid nerds gets taken down, right?
I mean, I did make a comment on that car that we covered.
And they yanked it.
Yeah, about the sandwich, the guy holding the McGriddle while he was taking pictures of his Targa.
Oh my God!
They took that down pretty quick. I mean, the one you bought was on PCAR Market too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I bought it off PCAR Market. I had looked at it when it was listed for sale and got it for a good price, and the transaction went smooth. There was nothing wrong with that transaction, other than the fact that I just didn't think I didn't think my bid was a winning bid at all. I was like vanity bidding, and then they were like, "Congratulations!" and I was like, "Oh my God, I have to explain this to my wife." And we're still married, so it works.
I think you'd have some issues with your marriage this time around.
Totally,
because you were stressing at the end of your ownership of the last one. And look, they're great cars. It was so much fun. You let me drive your car, and again, the takeaway for me was those darn seats. They look fantastic, but they just bounce around as tight as the suspension was. And I drove it when it had the coilovers in it, I think. That car handled amazingly, but there's like big old springs under these seats, and it just feels like sitting in a Cadillac. You're just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're just sliding around, and I'm sure when you went around a corner, your lovely little wife was sliding all over the place. So she probably did not like it, kind of like I didn't.
They're Recaros.
I know, right?
They're flat. They're like flat. It's like a couch.
If you want to drive this car, if you want to, make it a performance car, you really got to do something about that. Throw some pole positions in there or something. Totally. I don't know what that would look like. That would be kind of awkward in this car, I think. Beautiful car. The other thing I remember, the big takeaway when you had that car was this discussion that we had over and over again about the originality of the car. You had installed the coilovers, and the thing about coilovers, they're not terribly expensive to purchase, but they are labor intensive. So, you buy a set of coilovers for, call it $2,000 or $3,000, excuse me. And you're looking at about the same amount of money to put them in, with installation, and then you got to go get a corner balance and alignment and all that stuff. It really adds up. So, you having already incurred that cost installing the coilovers, you were fretting the idea of trying to sell it with coilovers because you believed that the car really wouldn't bring a premium if it wasn't the original self-leveling suspension. So you incurred the cost to remove all of that stuff. And in hindsight, do you think that was worth it? And Zach, we'll get to your opinion on the car in a second, but I really did want to get this answer from Deeb.
Yeah, I did. And then, a couple times, JP, we've seen some cars that are modified blow my theory out of the water. So I still think it's the right thing to do, but I can't quantify that it's the correct thing to do. It's, opinions are like a-holes, right? Everybody's got one, and sometimes they stink. So I really believe that, and I would probably do it again. But I don't know that everybody agrees with me. Here's the thing, JP, you talk about coilovers at that $2,000 or $3,000 mark. I could have just gone out and spent like $800 and got springs and shocks by H&R that are not coilover, but they're a matched set specifically for this platform. They call it the H&R Cup Kit. And for $800, you'd lower the car. The correct original working self-leveling system is in the box, but now the car is lowered and it looks even better in the photos, and that's how it's going to arrive to the new owner. I feel like if I had done that, I probably would have left it.
Why the hell didn't you do that?
Yeah, but the $3,000 I spent on, what was it, like ground control suspension with Eibach and Coney and all this crazy stuff,
and the $2,000 on the front putting it in, and then the couple of $1,000 on the back end,
$7,000 of suspension on a car I don't own. Yeah,
Zach,
I'm
don't take Deeb's financial advice when it comes to cars. Zach, what do you think of this car?
Oh man, I love this era of Mercedes, and the whole 190E series as well. I don't know, I don't have a ton of experience with them and these older Mercedes, but I just love the look. I love the durability and just the overall theme and just chunkiness of this car. Like, I love the design inside and out. It just feels nice and beefy, but in a good way. Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I'm not too super familiar with the market on these things, but someone in the comments did point out that this car hit the market a couple of years ago on Bring a Trailer, it looks like, and it sold for $52K.
Wow.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
February of 22, over 2 years ago. So yeah, I mean, it looks like a really nice example. This is the spec I would want if I was buying one of these things. It's
Yeah.
more or less fully stock. It's the color I'd want. I mean, it looks like a really nice example.
Very good intel. Zach Miller, man, we got to have him on all the time. JP, let's jump into the numbers. Our car is sitting at just $13,250 on 5 bids, but it basically closes 3 days from now. This car's not going to close until Wednesday. And I think we have seen this big trend forming where nobody's bidding on PCAR Market cars until the end, until they're trying to compete to actually win the car. And I personally, JP, and you might agree with me on this, think it's because that if you bid, PCAR Market takes their deposit on your bid right out of your wallet. So, like, if you're just doing vanity bidding on this car, you're going to be out, like $1,000 of what like PCAR Market would take as a buying fee on your early vanity bid if you don't have a real intent to buy the car. So it's just kind of wacky doodle stuff. And I think that's why our car is sitting so low. JP, before I knew about this car's own comp having possibly sold for $52,000 on Bring a Trailer, I put the bid in of $48,000. And I'll leave it there. I think I'm not sure. To me, this is a $50,000 example. I think I said that earlier. And I feel like this car should be back on Bring a Trailer as a what do you call it? What do they call an alumni? I think that would have helped this car. Having this car be its own comp in the 50s would almost ensure that it should get back to the 50s, remaining in good condition, and obviously having passed the California smog. This car is running clean. But bringing it to PCAR Market, and I don't know, man. This is not a Porsche, so I got my car at a screaming deal on PCAR Market. So yeah, I don't know if that was the smartest move there, Mr. Seller. So 48 grand, JP, is my bid to you. I hope it goes there. I think it should. I don't know if the guy will take that. Inflation over the last 2 years and the softening of the market are not helping this guy's cause of recouping his money at all. Even if he got 52 grand, my partner will tell you he didn't get the same 52 grand back. But I don't even think this car is going to break 50 on this platform. So, John, $48,000 to you. Where you at?
This thing's dead on arrival. If it, that's one thing PCAR Market has done well on is some blue chip stuff like that. The Cayman R we just talked about at the top of the show. That car had 11,000 miles and was pretty much perfect. But guys, this listing is terrible. There's like, I don't know, 8 pictures or something. I mean, there is more than that, but this listing is just like totally incomplete. There's no Carfax. It's just like, there's not much here to go on. And that's typical for PCAR Market. And, is it because they're hiding something? Is it just because they're lax on their standards? Is it because they're incompetent? I mean, who knows? It could be all of the above. This does seem like a very, very nice car. I have no idea what the hell they were thinking putting it on this platform. It's just not going to find the audience. I think it's going to get to 32 and be in the chum bucket for 60. And frankly, it is a $50-something thousand car on BAT.
Yeah.
Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with some of what you said. It's kind of a mixed bag here, right? I mean, it's pretty respectable miles for this. Most of these older 90s Mercedes get pretty high up there in the mileage, unless it's, the Evo models or something rare. But and it seems like it has a lot of service documentation too. But yeah, I don't know. I also question the platform choice. I don't think it's the strongest PCAR Market vehicle. And I don't know. I keep coming back to everything that we always talk about with the market, with inflation, with pressure being put on, the cheaper stuff first before it makes its way up the ladder to the 500,000 and the 7-figure category. I don't know. It's not going to get to that, that 52 number over 2 years ago for sure. I think, on Bring a Trailer or maybe a larger platform, it could have its best chance, but I think, we got less than 3 days left. It's only at 13. I don't know. I find it hard to see this thing going above 40.
So give me a number. Put a number to it, Zach.
I'll put 40. I'll put me in at 40.
40
All right, 40,000. So JP, I think I got a Yahtzee because I'm looking in the comments and Gerd said 48 and I said 48. So for sure it's going to be 48. You want to just give me my hat now? I need a new hat anyways. there are some low bids. Randy B's at 29,995, and he's taking the under on this FTS. Scott Derrickson's at 42. Paul's at 38. Brian liking the car and liking the platform. Brian's going all in at 55. I think that's the high bid.
Whoa, Brian.
Indy's at 42, 57 in the Chum. Thank you, Indy, for giving us both numbers. That's the correct way to do it when we cover PCAR Market. Kevin at 45, Peter George at 43, Anthony Vieira at 36.5, and Deeb buys it, and then I buy it from him next summer. You're on, man. Let's go. You can. I'll take watches as partial payment for your new Mercedes Benz, Anthony Vieira. I love you, buddy. Buddha's at 40, Chum Bucket for 50. That's a good guess. Michael S at 46, and I think that's all the numbers. That's a good one, JP.
Yeah, I mean, look, what do you guys think of the mileage on this thing being 49,000 and change? Having a miles starting with the number 4 helps the value of this car significantly. But if you wind up buying this car, if you drive it at all, you're going to click over that. When you sell it, it's going to be a car with 5 in the odometer, starting the odometer. And that's a significant price difference. Do you think that'll hold back anybody, Zach?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is it's going to make some difference, but most of the sales in the last year are like 65K and up.
Yeah.
And then it's not like their prices are drastically higher. So I think, someone's going to buy it, enjoy it for a bit, and hopefully not be too cautious with the miles. But it's also a 40-year-old, German compact sedan. How many miles are you really going to put on this thing in a year? This probably isn't like your second car,
Yeah, but like one rally, you're going to put over 1,000 miles on it, or 600 miles taking it to LA for a or something like that.
JP, it's going to be 1,000 miles. It's going to be almost 1,500 miles going to AutoFest and Overton Run and all that.
Good point. And if the AC works, this is the car that they take to go to New Orleans and go hang out with Chris Carbine. We're going to have a Bid Nerds event there down in NOLA. Yeah. He's going to make something like that happen. We're going to work on some details, but I love that idea. And, are we going to drive or fly or whatever? This is, I would way rather drive a Mercedes like that than an old air-cooled 911, as much as I love an old air-cooled 911. That's a long haul in the summertime, but maybe we do it in the fall. Yeah, guys, if you're watching the show right now, again, thank you. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, please do so now. And then, you know what? All the cars that we've talked about, that we've made bids on tonight, please go to the respective platform and mention in the comments that the car was covered on Bid Nerds.
By Bid Nerds.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get some people from the platforms to come over and watch the show. That's always kind of fun. All right, we have one last car that we're going to try to do real quick, right?
All right, real quick, JP. On Cars and Bids is a 1992 BMW M5 Touring. Super, super rare car. These touring models were never federalized for the United States, but this car is. It's on a U.S. title. It's a clean New York title, and the car is located in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. Our car is showing 98,100 miles, and this, of course, is the E34 generation of the M5. Now, the E34 M5s that we got in the United States were 3.6-liter inline sixes with individual throttle bodies that made those cars produce about 310 horsepower with a 5-speed manual transmission. The Tourings from 92 through 95 were all treated to the larger 3.8-liter inline six with individual throttle bodies, giving them an extra 25 horsepower up to 335 brake horsepower. The wagons, because that 3.8 was available as an option in some of the last years of this car's available. Think of the 964 turbos, JP, that were all 3.6s, and then the final year they did a 3.8. It's kind of the same thing with this car here, where they got this 3.8-liter motor. But the wagons, JP, were all treated to the Nürburgring handling package, which was obviously thicker sway bars and better dampers and spring rates and stuff like that. They probably got a higher speed-rated tire, a stickier tire as well. So this car suddenly is the business. You've got this big 3.8. You got like nearly 350 horsepower. The practicality of an SUV, but it's still in a super sexy German sedan, although I don't know anybody's ever called this car sexy. These are, when you talk about a wolf in sheep's clothing, this is the ultimate sheep, because this car, I mean, it doesn't have a lot of flash to it at all, but these cars drive beautifully. Now, I like bright blue colors. My partner JP detests them. There's something about this blue that just doesn't work for me. It's like a metallic royal blue. So you can kind of miss me with the paint job, but I'm digging that this car has black leather seats and not some weird colored interior. Some BMW M5s from this generation got some pretty hideous interior. I will just say that these photographs are garbage. I don't like, you've got this really special car, and I don't think they did a very good job of photographing it. And then they've got these hideous, like really dime store Grand Auto floor mats in the car. Buddy, you got to pull the crap out of the car and sell as clean and as stock looking a car as possible. Those floor mats did not come from BMW. They should not be in the photographs. You're devaluing the listing. JP, I'm going to say this in front of Zach Miller. I hope he doesn't hate me. I think this car should have been on Bring a Trailer. I think they should have hired a photographer to take these shots. And then I think this car could have done well. But I don't think this car is going to do very good on this platform, despite Doug being into some of these sort of, off-center cars. And I really like this car, as you can tell by my enthusiasm for it. But I don't even think Doug DeMuro can save this car. So, JP, what do you see when you look at the listing? What do you think of this particular car with the big motor and the handling package? I mean, this would be a great driver. All black one of these with all your gear to go on your shoots and stuff. I could totally see you rocking one of these for like 3 or 4 months before you get tired of it and sold it and bought a 997 cab.
So much better than any SUV there is.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, just hire a detailer, dude. You can't show pictures of your car with a bunch of, just gross stuff in all the little nooks and crannies. I think this car is going to do poorly, but not because of the platform, just because it's a terrible, terrible listing. Zach, and I don't think it would do any better on BAT. Zach, what do you think?
Ooh, okay. I have a lot to share. I love this thing. This is one of my favorite performance wagons that's not like, on sale in the last 10 years or so. I love the color. I think the color adds to it just by its uniqueness.
Yeah.
I don't know, Deeb. For some reason, I kind of like the floor mats. Like, I agree with you. That,
oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Hold on, aren't those cocoa mats? Aren't those expensive floor mats?
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought they were
I don't think they're cheap O'Reilly's floor mats at all. I don't know. Deeb's
no, yeah, I don't think they're cheap garbage necessarily. I don't know if they're like a reputable brand, but I think they look good. You definitely should have presented it with and without, in my opinion. But yeah, I agreed on the presentation being at the weakest spot of this car, but I think this is the platform for it. Cars and Bids has done well with these E34 Tourings. They sold one earlier this year with more miles for 36. They sold a purple one about a year ago for 41. They've so far sold every one that they've had, and these don't come around very often. So I think this is going to do well. I mean, shit, I kind of want this car. I love these things. I just think they're super cool. And this thing also, it sold on Bring a Trailer about 7 months ago.
A year ago. Yeah, and he bought and he put 1,100 miles on it since he acquired it in 2023, which is in the September of 2023. So yeah, you're right. Less than a year ago, Zach, 1,100 miles since. 52 is an interesting number because on paper this car should be worth more money, but it didn't bring it on BAT. I don't think it's going to bring more than that on this platform here. So that's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's not going to eclipse that value, but I think it's going to do good. I mean, this let's see, this has like 40,000 miles less than the one that sold on Cars and Bids 5 months ago for 36, and that was a black car with a custom blue interior that isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea. So, it looks like a good example. It doesn't seem to have any major flaws outside of just basic cosmetic wear and tear that isn't even to the degree you would expect for a 40-year-old car. So, I think it's going to do well.
Again, JP, this car is in New Jersey on a New York title with 98,000 miles, the 3.8 spec, and the Nürburgring handling package in. And I agree with Zach. Even though I don't like this shade of blue, I do think the blue enhances it, especially matched with a plain black leather interior. John, it's interesting. Our car is sitting at $31,111 on 13 bids, and it's got 2 days to close. 3 days really, because it's going to close on Wednesday the 5th. JP, I'm kind of just pivoting just a little bit. I actually think this guy's going to get his money back. I'm going to go $52,000. It sold for 52. I think somebody will give him 52 for this car all day long. And I wouldn't be surprised if it went over that number. Whoever bought it for 52 on BAT, I think kind of stole it. On paper, this car should bring a lot more money. So I don't think it's going to get into the 70s or the high 60s, but 52 I think is totally in play. And since that's its own comp, I think he gets his money back, even if it's not the same value in the dollar. So $52,000 to you. Thank you, Zach, for the intel. JP, where you at?
Yeah, I mean, this guy is taking pictures of this amazing, what was it, E34, right?
Yep, E34.
At the New York City Department of Sanitation. He's at the garbage dump. That's where this listing belongs. This car is just represented so horribly, and it's such a great car. And I just think that means it's only going to make it to the 40s. I'm going to say 42. But if it were cleaned up, if this thing were detailed and you had some better pictures, I think it's closer to your number. Our friend Max from Retro Works Garage was on a couple of weeks ago, and he looks for ads like this where the ad is just failing to show the car with any kind of romance. He wants to find an ad that doesn't really portray the car in a good light, because he looks at that as an opportunity to get a car at a deal. And I think whoever takes the risk on this car is going to get a great deal. And it really is a fantastic car. Zach, what do you think this thing's going to bring?
Yeah, I think if the presentation that this thing had on Bring a Trailer back in August also wasn't the strongest. I think if you gave this thing all the money with the presentation, you could get in this market today 52 or higher for this thing. But the presentation, I think, is going to hold it back to the market. Also, I think it's got a 44.
44. He's in your neighborhood, JP.
Yeah.
Which car would you guys rather have, this or that Mercedes Cosworth that we just talked about?
Ooh,
I'll
this
go the
100%.
wagon. I'll go the wagon just because I've had enough of those Cosworth, and I've never owned one of these. And the wagon would be so great with the dogs and the baby. I could put this car to use. So yeah, I would definitely take this car.
Max, what do you?
And it's fast.
Zach, what do you think? Which one?
Yeah, the wagon for sure, all day.
Yeah.
This is my pick of the whole show.
I mean, E34
over the
are just
Diablo.
awesome cars. Really, for the whole show, that's interesting. I mean, I remember when I got my first C4S, my 996 C4S at the time. That was quite a while. It was a contemporary car at the time, and I was like, "This is the greatest car ever." And I went out with my BMW friends and my buddy with just a regular E34. It wasn't an M. It was what's the one with the V8 in it? That would be somebody help me out.
E39.
No, it was an E34, but it was a
the M540.
Yeah, it was a 540. Yeah. Well, I don't think it was it had no M in it at all. It was just the 540.
The M540 was the Canadian spec one.
540i or something, or 540.
Yes. Yeah, with a sport package, which would be manual,
6-speed with coilovers, and we started getting in the whoop-de-whoops and the twisties, and I'm just like, God damn, that guy with the sedan is still right on my ass. What the hell? Yeah. So love that car. Definitely my favorite M, right? I mean, I think they're better than the E30 M3s by a long shot. It's
more car.
Just more car for sure. All right, what do you guys think this little M5 will bring? Let us know in the comments below. And that's a show, guys. We are wrapping it up. Zach Miller, thanks for hanging out with us. How do people follow you? Do you got anything you want to promote? Now's the time.
Yeah, let's see. Check out the YouTube channel, the Auto Committee, the blog attached to that as well that I post on from time to time. So you can find some of my creative automotive stuff there. And then I'm still in the auction space, so hit me on socials and we can talk about the market, talk about cars, get stuff sold, and all that. So yeah, hit me on LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
All right. And if you're looking to sell your classic car at Haggerty Marketplace, that's something that my friend Michael Deeb can help you out, right?
Absolutely. You can reach me, just direct message me on Instagram at the McDeeb, MCDEEB, my last name, and hit me up. We're taking consignments right now for Monterey for our Motorlux auction. So let me know what you got and we'll talk.
All right. Thanks, Zach Miller. Thanks to you guys in the Nerd Herd. We love you guys. We had a huge group tonight. Welcome to all the new Nerd Herd members. Again, please hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 2,000. We are right there. I mean, we're talking like literally a dozen or so. So spread the word, grow the herd. Let's make it bigger. We'll see you guys on Wednesday night at 6:30. Bye.
Nerd! Get the word!